I've always thought you have to live life looking forwards, not backwards, and I've had no interest at all in who my ancestors are. But I suppose there's a bit of a sense you might find something interesting out, and also I think that most television is just complete and total rubbish, and a chance to get something, discover something on television which is a bit of social history, something that, you know, makes us all what we are, well, maybe that's worth doing. Can't say it's a burning issue with me, though. Should it be?
You don't sound very excited by it.
I'm not very excited by it. I mean, I'm interested, but I'm not excited. What do you expect me to do? Wet my pants? I mean, it's ridiculous. Of course I'm not excited. Ask me a sensible question. I suppose maybe as you get older and you realise that, you know, all we can do is be born, do what we can and die, maybe at that time in life, I know it makes me sound completely geriatric, but at that stage in life you start thinking, well, yeah, I wonder how they did it before. I wonder how my grandparents, great-grandparents and ancestors before them, what it was like for them. Did they make any sense of it? I don't know.
A post-war baby, Jeremy Paxman was born into a prosperous Yorkshire family. He enjoyed a privileged middle-class upbringing. Educated at private schools, he later went on to study English at Cambridge.
Well, time to find out something about my mother's side of the family. So we're coming now to see Mum, if she can hear the bell, and see how far, you know, at least to get started with her, I hope. Hello, Mum.
Hello, nice to see you. How are you?
I'm pretty well, thanks.
This is my father and mother.
So this is Mabel and
young.
Morris. Yeah, so you've got...
At that time, they were both in the Salvation Army. They met in the Salvation Army. My mother had managed to get away from home and sort of joined the Salvation Army and had to go to the meetings there where she met Dad, who was already a member and a bandsman. And that is a picture of my mum, your grandmother, when she first joined
the
army. Isn't it nice, that?
Yeah.
She looks sort of very new. She looks scared to death, actually, doesn't she?
She does. She does.
She was very shy as a young woman. And they used to have to go into pubs and bars and things and try and save all these drunks, you know. And fortunately for her, she had a very good singing voice. Yeah. So she could either talk them, try and convert them, or sing hymns to them or something.
Perhaps she'd gone for a quiet drink in the pub.
I think she used to sing to them.
Where was she from originally?
She was from Glasgow.
But she grew up in Glasgow?
She was brought up in Glasgow, yes. Yes,
Big
she was
family?
one of an enormous family.
Really?
11, I think.
11 children?
11 children, yes.
Whew. Now, this picture here, this is Mary,
my grandparents.
your grandmother,
yes.
Mabel's mother,
Mabel's
and her father.
Mother and father, yes.
And he's obviously...
He's the one that was in the army.
In the British Army, yeah.
Yes. He was a sergeant major or some sort of warrant officer or something. That was probably a wedding photograph, I should think.
Yeah.
I like the way he's sitting down and she's standing up. Should be the other way around.
It does seem a little unchivalrous, I agree. It is funny. He does look a bit pleased with himself, doesn't he?
One time he was stationed somewhere down in Devonshire, because that's where he met Mary and took her back to Glasgow and married her. And then he was stationed in Londonderry, that's where my mother was born. And apart from that, I don't really know anything about him.
And what's this?
Well, this was
It's a Bible,
my
is it?
mother's Bible when she was in the Salvation Army. I thought you might be interested to have a look through it at some time. It's got all sorts of bits and pieces in it, little notes that she's
let's have a
made
look.
in it. And inside the cover.
I love the way she's underlined things. Look at this. I have played the fool and have erred exceedingly.
Oh, that's lovely. I wonder what she meant by
I have
that.
erred exceedingly. But look here in the front. To Mabel A. Mackay, a present from her mother. The 21st of December, 1904.
Must have been her Christmas present, I should think, in 1904.
Be thou an example. Oh, look here. The secret of the Lord is with them that fear him. He will show them his covenant. Mabel, do right.
Next stop, Glasgow, to find out more about Jeremy's great-grandparents, John and Mary Mackay, and their daughter, Mabel.
The appearance of that Bible, it was a really well-thumbed thing, underlined and things written into it. And so, you know, something that she'd studied in some intensity.
So you don't ridicule faith, you think...
No, come on, I really don't think you should ever do that. I very strongly think that you do not make fun of people's religious convictions. I would never do so. I may privately think that they're misguided. I may detest some interpretations of religious or manifestations of religious belief, but I think you absolutely respect people's religious convictions. Because I do think, you know, it's the only important matter, whether we're here for a purpose. Yeah, I think that really matters.
Passengers are leaving a train here. Thank you for travelling with Janitor today.
This is it. This is the coast. Is it fantastic?
I've left all belongings. Please mind the gap. Stepping up from the train to the platform.
Isn't it beautiful? John Mackay. So it says on the back he's Royal Artillery, and I think this is the stuff from the National Archives, which presumably, with any luck, will have his army records. So here we see John Mackay, Royal Artillery. Joined in Dundee, and he's a Presbyterian. And this is his service record. He joins the Royal Artillery in 1869 as a gunner. Then he's made sergeant in 1876. He's discharged in March 1891 after serving 22 years and 61 days and entitled to a pension. So there was a census in 1891.
The census shows the Mackays back in Glasgow after John's retirement, aged 39. John is their sole breadwinner, but all he's got is a military pension. So what happened next to the Mackays?
You are a quarter Scot, aren't you?
I'm a quarter Scot, yeah.
You're proud of that?
Of course I'm proud. You keep asking these ridiculous questions about whether I'm proud of it. You just are. I'm neither proud of it nor ashamed of it. It is part of my being. I've even got a pair of Mackay tartan trousers, which I'm sadly not allowed to wear.
Because?
Because I think I look rather ludicrous in them, probably. No, I like the fact that I'm partly Scottish, and I love Scotland. I also very much enjoy winding up Scotland too, winding up Scots. But actually, I think it's done with I hope it's done with a degree of affection.
The Mitchell Library houses the biggest collection of civic archive in Scotland. To discover what John Mackay did after retiring from the army, Jeremy enlists the help of Dr. Irene O'Brien.
Do you know what the uniform is?
I think I've seen photographs like that before. I think it's a janitor of some sort.
School janitor?
A school janitor.
Irene traces janitor John Mackay to a school in Rutherglen, South Glasgow.
These are the records for Macdonald's School in Rutherglen. And this is a school logbook. And I've had a look to see if I can find any mention of a janitor. And it's really unusual. You don't often find details, but lo and behold, there's 2 entries relating to John Mackay.
Oh, really?
Yes. Just above, you'll see a mention of the school janitor.
But she's talking about the pupils' attendance,
Yes,
isn't she?
he's talking about the pupil attendance.
Yeah.
They're absolutely
Good attendance
obsessed with
this week, although we supposed it would have been better after the janitor visiting so many last week, but a number are absent on account of whooping cough and other infantile complaints. So he's sent round by the school
Yes, yeah, to check
to make the children come.
to school, so he deals with all the truants.
It wasn't that successful, was he? A week later, she's saying attendance is very irregular.
Anyway, and again, and as I say, it's really unusual to find any personal mention of the janitor, but this is actually the day we now know, 1894, 11th of June, and it actually is an entry there about...
Sergeant Mackay died last night in the Western Infirmary, Glasgow, at 8:45. A post-mortem examination of the body took place yesterday, after which the remains were brought to his house. In addition to the relatives and others, a number of the boys in Forms 4, 5 and 6 took part in paying a tribute of respect to the deceased, who was a universal favourite throughout the establishment.
So that's quite nice, even though he was looking for the truants, he was still
they
very
liked him.
popular, so that's
They
really
liked him.
nice.
Yeah.
And also, all his children went to the school, so we actually have a record.
His children went to the school?
Yes, including Mabel.
My grandmother?
Yeah, went to the school.
Really?
Yes. So this is the actual admission register for Macdonald's School. And you will see all the family, William Ernest, enrolling in the school. And then you will see Mabel.
Ah, yes.
Donald Public School, School Board of Rutherglen. I bet they didn't need the wire mesh when they had a janitor.
Suppose you've got to go up and down these steps a dozen times every day. It's rather nice to think that despite the fact he went and told parents they had to send their children to school, he was a universal favourite, as the head teacher put it. It's rather nice.
John Mackay died of kidney disease at the age of 42. His wage and pension died with him, so Jeremy's great-grandmother Mary was left to care for all the surviving children with no income. At the Mitchell Library, Irene O'Brien has discovered how Mary tried to struggle on.
I found this poor relief application for Mary Mackay, and she's applying in 1898. It gives you quite a lot of information about the family, including all the children. You can see there's quite a number of them. And if you look down here, it's clear that they actually had applied for poor relief while they were in Rutherglen, presumably in 1894 after the husband's death, because they would have no income. They would have applied to the parish. There's a couple of pages here in the application, so what I'll do is I'll leave you to have a look at it.
Thank you.
In Victorian Scotland, poor relief was the only publicly funded support for those in need. Widows qualified if they had so many children they couldn't work. Mary's poor relief came via Dundee, John Mackay's hometown.
And there's a letter from Dundee to allow her a pair of boots, 2 pairs of stockings and 2 shirts for each of her dependent children. And she gets another from Dundee, allow clothing as if you were one of your own poor. Granted 6 pairs of boots and 12 pairs of stockings.
Then, in summer 1901, the distributor of Mary's poor relief, or aliment, received an anonymous letter.
Some bastard writes an anonymous letter. In June, the 8th of June and the 18th of June, alleging pauper had given birth to an illegitimate child. And then the bureaucrats search the birth registers. They find this register, which is obviously why it's been stuck in. So, Dora Mary, Nicholas or Mackay. Ha. Illegitimate. May the 15th, 1901. To Mary Nicholas Dressmaker, widow of John Mackay, Sergeant, Royal Artillery. And then, 21st of June, he wrote to Dundee, I was duly favoured with your letter of the 21st inst, reporting further misconduct on the part of our pauper above named. My committee have instructed the withdrawal of the aliment.
Dora was the second illegitimate child Mary had had since John's death. To the authorities, her birth was proof of further misconduct. The punishment was severe.
So because she's guilty of misconduct, she has a poor relief withdrawn.
So this is your great-grandmother?
Committed a great sin. Having a child.
Do we know what happened to her after that?
Mary faced a cruel choice. Keep the family together and risk starvation, or live in the workhouse, segregated from her children. She stayed with them, in Ardenley Street, East Glasgow, in one room on the second floor of a tenement block. Poor then, and poor now.
Well, it's one of these ones here. Second floor, one room. And it stinks around here too. I mean, there must be an open sewer or something, isn't it? One room on the second floor, and she'd given birth by this stage to 11 children. And there are, what, 7 or 8 of them at home. And presumably it was someone in this block who snitched on her when she had the illegitimate baby Dora, which caused her benefit to be cut. My grandmother was going out to work to support the new baby Dora. I don't know what she'd have felt about that. I hope she'd have felt generous about it. Just don't know we're born, do we?
At the turn of the century, Glasgow was the second most crowded city in Britain. Over 100,000 people were packed into old-style one-room apartments known as single ends, where 1 in every 5 babies died. These were dark, unhealthy homes, often with no running water, lighting, heating, or privacy. The National Trust for Scotland has preserved one.
Blimey, it's tiny. It is really small.
simply have no idea how you would get 7 or 8 or 9 or however many children it is. I don't know how you get them all even to sleep on the floor. You could pace out, I mean, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's that, about 5? No, it's less than that. I don't know how long my paces are. But, I mean, you can pace it out and you can see exactly how little room any child would have. But the notion that there were up to 10 human beings, a mother and 7 or 8 or 9 children, all in this confined space. And it's always raining in Glasgow too, so they must have spent an awful lot of time actually inside. And you know how children fight? I mean, it must have been... That's what she chose. She chose to stay with her children. Oh, it's an admirable decision.
Mary's life had changed utterly since marrying John Mackay in 1876. Whatever became of her after 1901, it seems she didn't die young. There's another photo of her years later.
Well, I guess she's about 50 in this picture. So she obviously did live on, but I would also say that the years have not been very kind to her. Because in that earlier picture, she looked sort of quite tall and slender. But I guess if you have 11 children and live in extreme poverty, it takes its toll.
She looked strong, though, didn't she?
Strong, I wouldn't cross her. I certainly wouldn't. No, she's, strong is, yeah, that's definitely a word you could use. Frightening might be another. This Bible was obviously given by Mary Mackay, the widow here, to my grandmother, Mabel. A present from her mother to Mabel A. Mackay, 21st of December 1904. And then there's an inscription written in by someone called Lizzie Gibb in the Salvation Army Training School or Home in 1905. The secret of the Lord is with them that fear him. He will show them his covenant. Mabel, do right and fear not.
The Salvation Army targeted the poor, offering them material help and the salvation of their souls. When Mabel joined, it had over 3,000 members in the slums of East Glasgow.
So here we are then, the Salvation Army building where I guess my grandmother might have joined up.
Mabel was 20 when she left Glasgow for London to train as an officer or full-time vicar. The Army's Commissioner for Scotland, Keith Banks, says she was then posted to army centres or citadels as far from home as Falmouth, Cornwall.
Welcome to the Salvation Army in Parkhead. The founder of the Salvation Army, William Booth, celebrated his 80th birthday while your grandmother was an officer at Falmouth. And we came across this amazingly interesting piece. I think maybe if we just put it out over here, because...
It looks like a Cornish.
It is, yes. You see what this says? A Cornish pasty for our beloved general on his 80th birthday. That's a very prized piece.
Golly.
But if we get inside here, it's very delicate, as you can imagine.
Be careful.
Take it out very carefully. One part is still attached to this pasty. You see, that's headed the Cornwall Division. And there's the picture of the divisional officers. And we come down Bodmin, Camborne, Devonport, and we come to Falmouth. And
There she
here
is.
we have Lieutenant Mackay. That's your grandmother. Look at that headwear.
You call that a bonnet? I suppose you do.
That was a bonnet, yes, and very fashionable at the time, of course. And it had this very large brim. This brim evolved in order to give protection.
What, against the elements, or...?
No, against the mops, the stones and the rotten eggs and other missiles that might be thrown. So
They were attacked, were they?
Oh, yes. The Salvation Army had a lot of opposition in its earlier days.
So this is like a policeman's helmet, effectively, that sort of thing. I mean, it's to stop them getting whacked on the head.
That's right.
Of course.
Strictly opposed to alcohol and loose living, the Salvation Army had many enemies, but took pride in its fearlessness. When Mabel became an officer, its founder, General Booth, was still touring Britain, evangelizing. And his army was a thriving organization with over 100,000 British members. The Salvation Army also know what happened to Jeremy's great-grandmother Mary after 1901. Her obituary shows she died in 1926. And it tells us something else.
We've got here a reference to the passing of your...
Great-grandmother, Mary Mackay, Mabel's mother.
That's right. And it says here that the deceased was a member of the Salvation Army Citadel, number 4. So, at some point, your great-grandmother became a Salvationist. Now, that might have started here, in this area of Glasgow.
The city fathers in Dundee deemed that this pauper, my great-grandmother, was, morally unfit to continue receiving poor relief because she'd had an illegitimate child. Would that have been an issue for the Salvation Army?
Not at all. No, she would have been welcomed at the army, and the army would have made sure that she was supplied with food and clothing and love. There would have been support, friendship around her. Everyone was welcome at the army.
Well, I'm glad you found it.
We are too.
Well, thank you very much for this.
It's been a real privilege.
It's been very interesting.
And we're very glad to think there's a little bit of Salvation Army blood in your veins.
I'm afraid it's a bit diluted with beer these days.
Well,
Are you all teetotal?
All members of the Salvation Army are teetotal, yes.
One of Mary's sons, Ernest, was also a full-time officer in the Salvation Army. The records show that Ernest and Mary emigrated to Canada just before World War I. By 1914, the Salvation Army had centres in over 50 countries. It actively assisted the emigration of its members, many from the Glasgow slums. Mary's obituary reveals that altogether 6 children left for Canada with her, including the illegitimate Dora. But Jeremy's grandmother Mabel stayed in England. She married Morris Dixon, a Salvation Army bandsman. And within 10 years of leaving Glasgow with her Bible, Mabel settled into married life in Yorkshire, and in 1920 gave birth to Jeremy's mother, Joan.
Resonant to think that this Bible first came with her on her journey down from Glasgow to the Salvation Army Training School. One of her friends has written, "I will not wish thee riches nor the glow of greatness, but that wherever you may go, some weary heart may gladden your smile. Some weary soul knows sunshine." It's rather touching. Very touching.
This
This is a picture, I think, of Mary Mackay after they'd emigrated to Canada. But it does, you know, this looks to me, you compare those two. This is someone who's been through a lot, and this is someone who's come out the other side. And pleased about that.
On his father's side of the family, all Jeremy knows is the Paxmans are Yorkshire folk. So he's come to Yorkshire to find out more.
I've always been very proud of the fact that I was born in Yorkshire. And Yorkshire is one of the very few counties that has a very definable sense of itself. I mean, no one ever says they come from Hertfordshire or Middlesex or somewhere. So I suppose I've been very conscious of it, and I've always said, where you come from, you say you come from Yorkshire. But I was actually brought up in Worcestershire, really. And does it make me an authentic Yorkshireman? I don't know. It's for others to decide, I suppose. I'm not a professional Yorkshireman, though. It's a disgrace, isn't it? Look, there's not a single Starbucks in sight. We're going to go and see my Auntie Margaret, who is the oldest surviving member of the family on my father's side. My father actually lives in Australia and is not well these days. So we're going to go and see her, and we'll find out what she can tell us about her father, my grandfather on that side of the family. She spent the whole of her life being taken for Shirley Williams and being accosted by people on trains who castigate her for Labour's education policies in the 1960s. But she's actually blameless of politics, I think.
Now living in Selby, Margaret grew up with Jeremy's father in an affluent Bradford home.
Hello, Auntie Mark. How are you?
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you. Oh, good. Just the thing. That's just what we need.
Right then. So I've got some photographs to show you.
Oh.
Now, that's Keith. That's your father, and that is me as a plump little
Really?
girl.
I can recognise him now. There's something about the eyes, isn't there?
Yeah, the eyes and the nose.
Yeah.
And that's a super picture. And that's my father on the right, Arthur in his suit. And isn't it that gorgeous hat?
Yeah.
And he's got his suit and a very jaunty angle with his bowler hat.
Yes,
An umbrella.
Yeah. Was he a wealthy man, or...?
No, he wasn't wealthy. No.
But he was
But
something in the wool trade.
In Yorkshire, we'd say he was well-doing.
Well-doing?
Well-doing, yes.
But what was he like?
Very
Your father?
happy, very jolly. He always had a smile and generous if he could afford to be. And he'd be present every night when he came home from work. So
A present every night?
Every night we had a present, yes. Very
Jolly.
spoiled. And, as I say, we're just liked by everybody.
Arthur Paxman did well enough as a travelling salesman to put his son, Jeremy's father, through public school. But Margaret's got no idea how he started out. She only knows he had an elder brother, Thomas. To discover more about Arthur's background, they look at the 1881 Bradford census.
58 Rose.
Oh.
Ross Street or Rose Street? Thomas Paxman, head of the household. He's a mechanic. And then is Mary, Jane, and Arthur.
About Arthur.
That's your father.
That's my father, yes. That's...
Where born? Yorkshire, Bradford.
In 1881, Arthur Paxman is 2 years old, living at 58 Ross Street with his parents and his elder brother, Thomas.
Let's see if we can look at the other one 10 years later and see what happens. Look, this is your father, my grandfather Arthur, and his brother, who are still living there. But
Yes.
they're just described as grandsons, but without any There's no parent or grandparent there at all.
Who's a worsted spinner?
Who's a worsted spinner, yeah. And his brother's a warehouseman. So Arthur was now, that looks like 12, does it? 12, and his brother was 17.
So what had happened to them? Had they been an outbreak of an epidemic of something, or...?
I don't know.
What had
Hard to
happened?
lose both your parents by the time you're 12, eh?
The orphaned Arthur was spinning worsted, a wool-based yarn, by the age of 12. But what had become of Arthur's parents? When and how did Thomas and Mary Jane Paxman die? Jeremy visits Bradford Registry Office.
Be careful, I'll be married off here. It's another one. Are you the same wedding as the one round the corner? Oh, I see. We'll creep in. Please ring bell for attention. Hello. Oh, you're... I just put my head through and you hit it with a hammer. I'm looking, please, for the death certificates for Thomas and Mary Paxman, my great-grandparents, sometime between 1881 and 1891.
Death certificates.
Death certificate, yeah.
Those application forms from please.
Yep, thank you.
So Thomas Paxman died the 17th of April, 1888, of phthisis pulmonaris of TB, tin plate worker journeyman, 35 years old. And his wife dies January 1890 she dies. So it's less than 2 years later. She also dies of TB and exhaustion, described as a charwoman, widow of Thomas Paxman, tin plate worker. God. Poor things. So she witnesses his death, and then the son, Arthur's older brother, witnesses his mother's death. TB and exhaustion. Charwoman. Sad. So what does it tell us about my grandfather? Well, he lost both his parents by the time he was 10, both of them to TB and exhaustion. He got a job by the time he was 12 in a woolen mill. It's a hard life. It's a very hard life. See, you shouldn't go in this family history business. It's just upsetting. Nothing you can do about it. I mean, it's... Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people must have lived like this and died like this. Hundreds of thousands. And I suppose it's, you know, it's just when it's just numbers like that, it doesn't really mean anything, but it means something when... I mean, I don't know these people. I wouldn't recognise them if I fell over them, but they're you know, I'm connected to them. And it's that possessive thing. My great-grandparents. God, we have it easy. Right, should we go on?
Starting at the bottom of the textile trade, Arthur Paxman overcame adversity and worked his way up to become a successful sales rep in the same business. It was Arthur who set the Paxmans on the road to prosperity.
Well, there's a good old mill. And this one here is Ross Street, I think. Which has evidently been pulled down. Slum clearance, I suppose.
The house in Ross Street, where Arthur's parents lived and died, has long since disappeared.
And that is Ross Street, such as it is, or what's left of it.
To find out more about Arthur's father, Thomas Paxman, Jeremy searches the census at Bradford Local Studies Library, helped by librarian Carol Greenwood.
Hello. I wonder if you can help me. I found my family in the 1891 and 1881 censuses,
Right.
but you have the records here going back to 1851, don't you?
Census, yes,
Census,
we do.
yeah.
Yes. Would you like to look at them?
Please, yes.
Come down here.
Thank you.
What do you know about the family? You'll need...
I know the name. That was the start,
that's
isn't it?
fine. Yeah, that's the beginning.
So it's Paxman. So 186. What's this?
So we've got surname index.
Right. Excellent. Good.
In 1861, Jeremy's great-grandfather, Thomas Paxman, was a young boy of 6, living on Abramgate, an unhealthy street in central Bradford.
I mean, this is really dense housing, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Was each of these places...
Each of these little squares is a house.
Is a house. But were they single-family occupancy, or was it...
Sometimes some of these houses had cellars. We believe that people were actually living in cellars at that time. We have maps from the 1950s which show the houses were still here, but the suspicion is that the houses were pulled down to make way for the library development.
So we parked the car where my
I think you did.
where my ancestor used to live.
Uh-huh.
More or less.
Yes,
Within give or
yes.
take a yard or two.
Yes.
That's extraordinary. Well, I'm rather lost for words.
It has to be a first.
Good heavens.
There's another surprise when Jeremy goes back another 10 years to 1851. The census shows his great-great-great-grandfather, yet another Thomas Paxman, living in Bradford with his children and grandchildren. But he's not from Yorkshire.
He was a rent agent, and he has a wife of 42. He has children who are a weaver, a comber, a weaver, a reeler, and they all must have migrated here. The mother and the father and the first 4 children are all born in Remlingham in Suffolk.
Jeremy's ancestors came to Bradford at the worst possible time. In the middle of the 19th century, it was a filthy, disease-ridden industrial city crammed with low-paid workers. The population had shot up from 16,000 to 100,000 in 50 years. The poorest workers slept on straw in vermin-infested cellars that flooded with sewage when it rained. They slaved for a pittance in mills owned by millionaires.
It's amazing. There must have been hundreds and hundreds of buildings just like this. Full. Smell, the noise, the smoke must have been amazing.
An eyewitness said going to Bradford was like descending into hell.
It
It obviously looks a whole lot better on a day like today when most of the chimneys have been knocked down and we've got a bright sunny day. But then, that contemporary account of a descent into the circles of hell when it would have been absolutely black with all the smoke from the chimneys and they're all living in houses which have no running water and no heating and no lighting. And you know, what I'd like to know is what it was that was a sufficiently strong force to make them get up, leave Suffolk, and come to this dreadful place.
It's funny, you look at a county as beautiful as Suffolk and you wonder why anyone would want to leave it. Well, I guess we'll probably find out he didn't want to, but had to.
In the early 1800s, a crisis in farming left many destitute in Suffolk. If Thomas was among them, the local parish would have paid him poor relief, then the only form of social security. At the Suffolk Records Office, Jeremy finds Remlingham Parish doesn't exist. But Framlingham does. He searches its poor relief records for Thomas Paxman.
Paxman Thomas, 1824, March the 26th, he's given 6 and 6pence in cash. Crikey, he's all over the place here. 4 children. Ah, this is interesting. Because he's now recorded in this year, which is 1827, 28, 29, he's now recorded shoemaker, and 4 children has been crossed out, and he's now got 5 children. They should have stopped breeding. April the 11th, he comes and gets 6 and 8pence halfpenny. On the 18th, he comes back, gets 7 and 10pence halfpenny. On the 25th, he comes back. He must have been knocking on the door every week. November, 4 times. December, 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 times he went in January. 3 and 6pence a time. So this is 1832. He's got 7 children now. 7 children. And here he is again. Every week he's turning up with his hand out. You're getting 7 shillings now. 7 shillings, 7 shillings, 7 shillings. Well, he gets £1 one week. I feel very sorry for him. But you can see if you were a great parish worthy, you could see these bloody people turning up week after week with their hand out.
In 1835, the records stop. To save money, poor relief in England was reformed and transferred from the parishes to districts known as unions. Paupers like Thomas faced a harsh choice: lose poor relief or live in one of the dreaded new workhouses. But in this part of England, there was a way out for those bold enough to take it. Historian Clive Payne has done some of the pioneering research on a unique migration scheme for working families run by the Poor Law authorities.
Framlingham eventually would have paid for the family to go down to London, and then they would have been put onto the Grand Union Canal barge and taken by barge all the way up into the manufacturing districts.
How astonishing.
And every person who went had a guaranteed offer of employment before they embarked. So it wasn't a matter of just going to the north in the hope. There was actually a migration agent. And he then said, you know, I've got a job for so-and-so at this particular factory in this particular place. Have you anyone who might fit the description? And here he is.
No.
There he is. Thomas Paxman.
Blimey. Thomas Paxman, 7 children. And he's being sent to Lancashire, though,
Lancashire. Here. And this document is dated July 1836. This is also one of the Poor Law Commissioner's reports.
Oh, here it is again.
But now you've actually got their names, look. There's Thomas and his wife, and then 4 of their children go. There's Benjamin, who's 16, and Thomas, who's 15, Jane, 13, Louisa, who's 12.
Yes.
So there's 6 in the party.
Yeah.
3 males, 3 females. You can see they've gone by
Going
canal.
by canal, yeah.
And there's even a significance in the ages. Children under 12 were prohibited in the following year from working a full 48 hours a week. So the need in the factories was for children who were above the regulated age for the Factory Acts.
Right, so is that why the other children were left behind?
We must assume that they're left behind, who with no idea. But the younger ones, he's not taken them.
3 children were just left?
Perhaps with an aunt or someone, presumably.
To keep the Paxmans out of the workhouse, Thomas left his youngest in Suffolk. Anne, aged 4, Walter, 2, and Maria, newborn. The rest of the family joined 2,000 East Anglians who left home in search of jobs. They travelled by barge to the grim heart of the industrial north. But the gamble paid off. By the time they were old enough to work, the young ones had rejoined the others. And by 1846, the Paxmans had found their way via Manchester to Bradford, never returning to Suffolk.
This is almost the next stage in the possible research, because this is a photograph of the poorhouse inside Framlingham Castle. And it's very, very likely that he would have called in every week to receive what later goes down still into common parlance, to receive his weekly dole.
Do you know where the word dole comes from? It was doled out.
Doled out. It comes from a medieval charity doling out in the same way.
I didn't know that.
You can imagine him sort of standing here by the doorway with a queue of people standing outside and saying, well, you know me, Gov, I've got wife, 7 children, not much good in the shoe trade this week, and then giving the money.
Jeremy retraces his ancestors' footsteps to the old poorhouse, where Thomas Paxman used to collect poor relief nearly 2 centuries ago.
I expect if it had been me, I'd have hated it. And I would have felt humiliated. So I suppose I can say I've got ancestors who came from a castle. That's about it. No, it's quite humbling, actually, I think. He had it very hard.
How long had the Paxmans been in Suffolk? An expert on the Paxmans of East Anglia, local historian Andrew Phillips, believes the name was invented a very long time ago by a businessman from King's Lynn.
He was mayor twice, he was the financial controller of the borough, he was member of parliament, and when he enters his name as a freeman, he calls himself Roger Paxman. And he
Really?
Yep, and he is the first Paxman we can find by nearly 100 years.
And this is when?
This is 1367. Pax is a Latin word for peace, and therefore Paxman is a pun. Man of peace. Good name for an aspiring politician.
So the first Paxman is this charlatan who becomes a politician.
Yes.
I didn't think I could go any lower, but we're going well so far. And after that?
Well, he had a personalised number plate, didn't he, with his own invented surname. Anyway, what happens next, I think, is that in the reign of Henry VIII, a young Paxman goes off to Norwich, then the second city of England, of course, as an apprentice, marries, has children. The family shifts down to Lowestoft by 1600. Now we have parish registers, we can watch them, and they move in a long drift down East Suffolk here. Numbers are rising, and they reach Framlingham, where your family was, by 1650. It's taken them 300 years to get from King's Lynn. It's about a 2 hours drive now. And then comes that explosion of population that accompanies the Industrial Revolution. But, of course, no Industrial Revolution in East Anglia. Anyone who's anybody gets the hell out of Suffolk. And they do. But it strikes me as quite extraordinary. Of all these Paxmans, only one went north. And he was Thomas Paxman. And he was your great-great-great-grandfather. The only one to go to the gritty, grotty, industrial north.
Well, was he the only one who was completely broke?
No. Oh, no. There are Paxmans in workhouses and dying in relative poverty at this time, and being shunted around as they were from workhouse to workhouse.
So I'm not really a Yorkshireman at all?
No. Your home is in East Anglia. You are a Suffolk boy.
Which is a good thing to be?
Oh, yes, in Suffolk.
I've no doubt it is in Suffolk. They're both stories of people living in extreme poverty and getting out of it. Has it been transforming? Well, I mean, that's a vainglorious question. Has it been interesting? Yes, it has been interesting. And has it, in a way, been humbling? Yes, I think the choices most of us have to make in life are pretty easy, and they're presented in great abundance. And I think if you're living in extreme poverty, in the conditions in which either side of that family lived, you didn't have many choices. If you were going to ever get out of this, you had to make a fairly radical step and go away into the unknown. Well, that must have been quite alarming in those days. And I ended up feeling quite proud of them, really. Being very glad that I'm ashamed to say them, not me. And feeling very proud of the fact that they managed in the end. They made moral judgments, and they made practical judgments, and they got themselves out of the hole that they were in, and I admire them for that.
Do you think people will see you at all differently as a result of seeing this?
What a ridiculous question. I've no idea whether they will. And I don't care whether they do or not. I mean, you are just who you are, aren't you?
Stand by camera 3, 10 seconds to air. 8, 7, 6, 5,